Welcome to the Messy Medium podcast. I'm your host, the Messy Medium herself, Tara Cecilia. I'm a tea connoisseur, intuitive psychic medium, and a lifestyle and business coach for individuals looking to create their most luxe legacies. I'm here to spill the tea on life, death, legacy, and everything in between. In this podcast, we're not afraid to get a little messy. Hello, and welcome back to the Messy Medium podcast. It's Tara. What's up? How's everyone doing? I have recorded so much content today, and I'm honestly so proud of myself. I'm like, wow, I did that. That happened. This is happening. So I'm so thankful that you have decided to join me for episode 2 of the Messy Medium podcast. We are just getting started, and I just have so many ideas for upcoming content. But today's topic of the podcast is forgiveness. And I think forgiveness seems like, you're like, all right, forgiveness, you can have a disagreement, you have some kind of issue happen between two people or multiple people, and there's I'm sorry is exchanged, and okay, that's it, great. But sometimes epic, incredibly hurtful things happen that people are left wanting forgiveness. People are left feeling, harboring the shame and the betrayal and going through the cycle of just repeating the pain because they haven't received that closure. They haven't received the forgiveness. They haven't given the I'm sorry, or they haven't received the I'm sorry. And I'm here to give my POV on that. And I think it is going to surprise some people what I'm about to say. Honestly, when I had this realization, when this concept was first introduced to me, I was mind blown. It was I did not even know the level of what I had tapped into, what I had unlocked. And that is that forgiveness is not a conversation between two people. Forgiveness is not the conversation between two people where I'm sorry's are exchanged and you are forgivens are given. Forgiveness is when you consciously decide that you are going to forgive somebody. You may never get to have the conversation with them where you get to, air your grievances, spill it, let it all out. That may never happen. You also may never get the response you want from that person based on whatever hurt they have caused you. And they might be incapable of giving that to you, and they also may be incapable of realizing the gravity of what they have done wrong. It's very possible that that is the case. And most times they are not deserving of your forgiveness. They are not deserving of that. But the forgiveness is not for them. It is for you. It is so that you are able to move past this pain, this shame, this feeling of repeating the need to repeat the past and analyze. How much energy is being spent on that? And how can that energy better serve you somewhere else in your life? One of the best examples I have for this, where I've applied it in my life personally, and this was very soon after I kind of uncovered what forgiveness was and what I was going to do with this information, that forgiveness is not a conversation between two people. And I kept having to remind myself that. And it was 2016. And for those who don't know, my father, he had a lot of mental illness, and he also was an alcoholic. He relapsed a couple different times. Addiction is hard. Addiction and mental illness, we don't understand the gravity of that. There's so much we still are learning to this day about those topics. But he had relapsed, and it was the winter of 2016, and he was basically comatose because his liver was failing, and there's everything that could go wrong when you're an alcoholic and you're kind of at the end of the road was going wrong. And he was basically comatose. And of course, I have all these years of pain and resentment and just question, like, why have you hurt us like this? And there's a lot of different things, family things that had played a part in his alcoholism, although we didn't know at the time, but had led up to this in regards to like my parents' divorce, etc. We'll talk about that another day. But there's a lot of betrayal and hurt there. And he's still my dad. So it was, funny enough, it was the inauguration of President Trump, which I don't even like, but it was the inauguration, so it was on the television, and I'm sitting in the hospital room, and I'm watching this man get inaugurated into the White House, and I'm looking over at my dad in a comatose state. He didn't even know who I was at some times, and I remember thinking to myself, this is the worst day of my life. This is the worst day of my life. And at that point, him and I had not had like the I'm sorry, I forgive you, blah, blah, blah conversation. We did get to have that conversation a couple different times before he passed away in July of 2022. But at this point, we hadn't had that conversation. And I went home that night, and I just remember being completely gutted. I went to my car after, visiting hours, and I sobbed. And that was like the first time I ever consciously decided that I was going to do this forgiveness practice, where every second, if that's what it took, I was going to forgive him because it made me feel better. And I realized that this is like one of the most empathetic things I can do, and it seems like I'm doing it for him to be like, oh, I forgive you. But I was doing that for myself. I was doing that so that I could heal, and so I could move forward, and so I could more accurately process what was going on. So every day, every second, I would be like, I forgive him. I forgive him. Now, that doesn't mean like I'm going to let him hurt me again or have that emotional control, because with this forgiveness and with this conscious decision, I'm also consciously taking back the control here. And I'm not letting, the circumstances, because it felt like at that point, like the world was coming to an end. I was like, politically, the world is coming to an end. Once again, I'm here in like familiar family turmoil. So this act of forgiveness was a way for me to take back control over my life, which I felt like I had none at all. And this is funny enough, this is like right before like a major shift happened in my life. And I think that making space with that forgiveness and like removing all this pain and anger and all of this made space for the major shifts that took place that actually kind of are what have led me here. So it's very interesting to like look back now and be like, wow, like really creating space does make a difference. Choosing forgiveness, it makes a difference. I also think that forgiveness, when you're doing it internally and you're consciously deciding it, and it can be applied to yourself, it really does allow you to better protect yourself. And I've applied it to other, places in my life, other people, other situations where things have not gone well, they haven't gone correctly, they haven't gone how I thought they should or how other people thought they should, and people are left with hurt feelings. And that conscious decision to be like, all right, I forgive you, it kind of gives you a clean slate where you're also able to like walk away from situations, where you're kind of putting down the baggage and are able to move on from situations. Again, you're like creating this new space in your life by eliminating this cycle of shame and pain and, just like, I don't know about you, but I get stuck in cycles of repeating situations or conversations. I'm like, oh, should have said that. Oh, why do they do this? Why this? Why that? And by consciously deciding to be like, I forgive you, it's forgiven. And sometimes that is hard. Those times, especially right after when my dad was recovering again in 2016, I had to forgive him every second because I was over it in the next second. So I would have to do it again. So I was like, oh, okay, I forgive you. Oh, God, now I got to forgive him again. Because I was so mad and there was so much. But eventually it turns into minutes, and eventually it turned into hours, and eventually it turned into days. And eventually it felt like, all right, I don't have to do it every single day. I'm good with it. But then something would happen. When he relapsed again last year, I was like, damn, now I got to forgive him every second again, because it's what I need to do. And I'm not saying it's going to work for every situation, but I do think there's space with this practice to make it your own, where you're going to be able to use it as a healing tool and as a, point of changing your perception about a certain situation or how you want to handle a certain situation. I gotta look at my notes because I feel like I had some really good things to say, although I did cover a lot. The main thing is forgiveness is not for other people. It is for you. And heart-to-hearts are great. It's awesome to have like that, like deep, life-changing conversation with someone. You're like, this is great. But sometimes things don't actually change. And what is insanity if not replaying and redoing the same thing, even though it does not get results over and over and over again? Once you've had that conversation and you've decided to forgive them and they hurt you again, it's time to think about just using that forgiveness internally and moving on. Because to create space for yourself, to honor yourself, and that you aren't going to take this type of behavior, like it's not acceptable. It's something that you are not going to accept in your life. You will start to see changes, and soon it will turn into just like the status quo. And if things aren't up to a certain level, behavior is not up to a certain level, if that quality isn't being reached, it won't be acceptable. And I feel like that concept bleeds into like a wealth mindset or I don't want to say I'm a lucky girl mindset, but that like very positive, self-motivated, aligned mindset. And I'm assuming, what they say about assuming, you make an ass out of you and me, but I'm assuming that if you're listening to this type of content or you're, come across my page, that type of mindset is what you're looking for. So forgiveness in its own way is a tool, is a resource for you to unleash the healed, the wiser, the most incredible version of yourself. Because this is a version of yourself that is capable of empathy, is capable of like higher level analysis of certain situations, and are now not accepting people, places, events, things, etc. that are not going to serve the best version of you, that are not going to serve the best version of you, any of those things. And you start putting that out into the universe and you start to attract it. It may not be instant. There might be a lot of different instances of, I forgive this person internally. All right, I gotta do it again each second. It may be, I forgive myself. I gotta forgive myself again. For whatever reason. I know, personally, I've definitely had situations where I have I have let people take advantage of me, in terms of like what I'm willing to do, like very people pleaser type behavior. I'm really working on not being a people pleaser, but I have really gone above and beyond in a lot of different ways, or have really like dimmed down my personality or who I am to please other people and fit into relationships and fit into what people expect of me. And I have like, how much time and how much progress and possibility could I have potentially lost by doing that over the years? How much? And I start to think about that. And I think about all sorts of different situations where I didn't do what I truly thought or felt was the right thing, or, you know, deluded myself and didn't let the real me really shine through. And I'm like, damn, why did I do that? Why did I hurt myself like that? Why did I choose to hurt myself like that? And then I have to forgive myself. And a lot of this healing journey over the last couple of years has just been me forgiving myself and like getting in contact with my inner child so that my inner child can kind of forgive the different parts of myself that I let them down, and my inner teen and my inner preteen. And forgiveness is possible within. And I've made so much space by forgiving. And there's plenty of space that still needs to be cleared out. But there's a lot of space that I have created and held for myself. And this is through, personal development work and therapy, and, also just working on my health as well. But I now, by doing that and practicing forgiveness and practicing, healing, etc., I can see a whole different version of myself. Like lately, I look in the mirror and I'm like, wow, there you are. And that feels really good to say. And I think through forgiveness, I've stopped obsessing so much on the past. And I would go to bed at night and I would think about so many different things that have happened in the past. Really bad past relationships, both friendships and romantic relationships, different scenarios with my parents or other family members, or just not good, really icky things that have happened. And I'd be like, why did you get yourself in that situation? Or why didn't you say this? Or why, blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. There goes the cycle. There it goes. And now, since I've forgiven myself, and I'm actively forgiving myself, and I'm actively working on that, now I go to bed at night and I'm able to think about what does the future hold, or different scenarios I'm trying to manifest for the future. And a lot of that is because I've made space in my mind, in my body, in my soul for forgiveness. And it's a really nice and welcomed change to me and to have happen. And I just basically want to communicate that you deserve that too, and that you can have that too. You are welcome to that. And it may start, just sit in your car and think about a certain situation where forgiveness is required internally, or with another, outside of you, another really part of a relationship or a situation, and just be like, all right, I'm going to forgive you. And it is going to feel so uncomfortable. You'll be like, actually, I don't know if I actually do. Stop yourself right there and say, no, actually, I forgive you. No, actually, I forgive you. Again, because some situations, it's like those people, like I said, they're not actually deserving of your forgiveness. But we're not doing it for them. We are doing it for you. So just sit wherever you're most comfortable and clear it out and make the space and do it for you and reclaim that space in your mind and your spirit. And with that, do not let them tread on you like that again. With this forgiveness comes knowing more, knowing better. Because if you let it happen again, you're like, oh, I should have known better. And now we've added on to the things I need to forgive myself for list. Don't do that to yourself. I mean, if it happens, it happens. It's all part of the growth process. And that, we're messy. Hence the podcast. We're messy. Like we're gonna flounder and make mistakes. But don't let them tread on you again. Don't let yourself be your own worst enemy. And don't let other people take up so much real estate in your minds. Give them forgiveness and keep it pushing. That's it. That's the message for today. I hope that this episode has resonated with you. If it has, do not forget to follow me on social media and let me know what you thought. What is a situation that you have had to give someone forgiveness for, even when they haven't deserved it, but you've done so, it's made you feel better? And let me know if you try the practice of forgiving them for you. Have a great day. Stay blessed, babes. Thanks for tuning into the Messy Medium podcast. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow wherever you're listening from. You can find me, the Messy Medium, on all social media platforms under the handle Tara Cecilia. If you'd like to book an intuitive reading, consult session, or explore my coaching containers, please find the direct link to those services and more in the show notes. Until next time, stay blessed, babes.